again, there has to be a growth mindset, a level of openness to realize that the things and the tactics and the mindset that got you here are not going to be the same things that are going to get you to your next level. And you have to be willing to embrace possibly a tool, a strategy, an app, an analytics measuring tool to help you along the way. And I think that that's a really valuable point when you talk about being matched with the right coach and making sure that you're in alignment with your support system. That's really so important. But even before that, it's being in alignment with yourself.
Welcome back to the Balance Boldly podcast for ambitious women in business and a few brave men. I'm your host, Naketa Ren Thigpen. Excited to be with you as always. People, we are literally nearing the half-year mark of 2021. What happened? Where did the year go? I promise on my life, just like a few weeks ago, I was celebrating New Year's, and a few weeks prior to that, my husband and I were driving around to our family and friends dropping off gifts like we were Mr. and Mrs. Claus. I am confused at how fast this year has flown and how much I got done. I'm quite proud of myself, actually. I'm patting myself on the back and really, really grateful and thankful that I did not do what I did in 2020, which was sulk about all the things that I have to get done. And I got a lot done too. Let me be very clear about that, because if you know me, you know that I'm ambitious and hard-hitting and very, very serious about my business. And I did a lot of sulking in 2020 because I wanted to travel, and it was the woe is me and the why can't I's. All of that stuff was happening. My birthday, my anniversary, Mother's Day, all the little celebrations that we would normally get to do, in some outwardly expressive way. That unsolicited, disruptive gift that is COVID shut it all down. And it was frustrating, quite frankly. I'm sure most of you could agree that last year threw us through a loop. And if we were present to it, we received the gift of exposure. What 2020 did for me and many of the people in my circle, it exposed what was missing in my life. It exposed those holes that I was too busy with, all the buffers of activity and travel and all the things, the networking meetings, you name it, I was in it. Me balancing boldly was really about being booked and busy. And it really, truly made me look at, okay, Naketa, well, what's missing? Because now that you are not booked and busy in the same way with all the navigating the travel, the airs, planes, trains, automobiles, and all the things, it really made me look at how I wanted to do life differently. And as you guys know, I teach and preach all the time to live completely fully, which meant a mindset shift for me. So can you see where this is going? I am about to welcome you a very dope and incredibly well-taught mindset coach to the show. She is business and certified mindset all the way down, aromatherapist, NLP practitioner, mind and body. She honors the holistic person in her business coaching and has created something fantastic called the Soulprint Method, which I'm sure is just one of many things that she's created. We want to welcome Kc Rossi to the show. Hi, Kc.
Hi, Naketa. Thank you so much. I love that. I can't wait to dive in with you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I know that you work with a lot of people who are in business and trying to apply those very hard, difficult, challenging awareness moments that they need to shift their mindset in order to get to the next level. And you're doing it with a little woo and a lot of tactical in the business to really get them to the next level. I would love for you to share with everyone listening, what's going on in your work and how you're working with people and why you decided to do this work in the first place.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, it really is an integrated process. It's about honoring ourselves holistically and bringing all the facets of who we are mentally, spiritually, emotionally, to the table and not being afraid to have that integration. I know for many years, because I'm actually on my 30th year of being a full-time entrepreneur. And for a big chunk of those years, I was very segmented. I was buttoned up black and white in my kind of 9-to-5 living. And then I allowed myself to have the permission to live in color and to do the things I really enjoyed. And as I continued through the process, and it's been hard. There's been a rocky road. I've needed support. I've needed to do the hard work and the heavy lifting to kind of uncover some of those pieces. I really realized, and this is what I help women realize now, that it is safe, more than safe. It is awesome to be fully integrated, to bring all of you to your work, to have joy and fluidity from the minute you open your eyes. It doesn't have to be an on because it's quote unquote professional, and an off in your personal and private life. People really are craving right now more than ever authentic leadership, really kind of peeling back the layers. Like, that's why reality shows are so popular. We want to see it all. We want to hear the real talk. We want to see the bumps and the bruises, yes. Right? And what got you to where you are. So I'm a real fan of transparent living and really leaning full in on integrating the light side of our personality and the shadow side of our personality.
Yes.
And the yin and the feminine and the fluidity that we have inside of us, and the yang, the masculine and the linear. And that's a lot of what I do in my work, is honoring ourselves as a whole person, not just as a business person, and bringing those facets together in a holistic way.
I cannot, I want to, I know my husband listening to this is going to be mad because he's going to hear me shake the maracas in a second because I'm so excited. Yeah. And I'm thinking about the audio, what is she doing? So this is me shaking the maracas, just breathe in that moment for everyone who's listening. That is so spot on, especially as you leaned into the lights and the shadow sides of ourselves. I would love for you to talk a little bit more about how you embrace that in your own personal work, because, I stand in, we fully live what we teach, preach, and sell to others. And I can see and feel intuitively, because you guys are not looking at her, but I am looking at her, and I can feel it all within you, that you truly do integrate these things into your life. And I would love for you to share.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, again, it kind of goes back to the permission that we give ourselves, that it is okay to lay down perfectionism, that perfectionism is kind of this elusive thing that can keep us stuck. It can keep us procrastinating, keep us from shining brightly. And I think that when we accept that we're never going to get there, that it's truly about the process, that makes everything much easier. I think the other thing too, that when we can connect to the pieces and the shadow parts of ourself, of our previous self, if we can still remember that, it makes us much more empathetic to people that are at a different part of their journey and actually need guidance, and they need some tips on how to get there. And an example for me is I had a business partner, and we really were this dynamic duo, and we had 10 different businesses. We really, we complemented each other, and, we just had this amazing connection where wherever my weakness was, she was right there to fill it in. And wherever her weakness was, I was right there. So it was just really powerful. And when I decided to break away from that dynamic duo and start my own thing after 20 years of being in that partnership, it was really challenging for me to step into my own self, really understand what my identity was. Yeah. And that there was really nowhere to hide. It was me, myself, and I, because I couldn't hide behind the power. We were 1 + 1 = 10. That's what it was like. So all of a sudden I was like, okay, it's 1. It's me, myself, and I. How do I do this solopreneurship? And it took a while, and it was painful. And it took, a lot of digging deep and realizing that a lot of the root issues had to deal with worthiness, confidence, and being okay with using my voice, finding my voice, right? Because you're very different in a partnership as you are individuals. Absolutely. So that was definitely a process where, I had to shine the light on it, and it took some time, and it took some coaching and journaling and affirmations and all those supportive tools. Yeah. But that's the exciting part about business. To me, business is about, seizing the opportunity for personal and spiritual development, right? Because we are challenged in ways that many people aren't challenged, where it's we go through those layers of negative self-talk and those mental gremlins of imposter syndrome and all the things that can hold us back, that in regular life, we're not necessarily challenged in the same way. But as an entrepreneur, all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, I've got a platform and I'm going to be looked at. And it's really a mindset thing. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. So yeah, I said a lot, so I'll let you continue.
No, it was powerful and very beautifully said, because the vulnerability came out of your story. And I do appreciate and honor that you share that with us. Not everyone can talk about a marriage, and a business partnership is a marriage, right? Like
Yes.
You are literally in the deepest connection with your partner, the same way you would be in a quote unquote traditional, whatever that means, marriage, when you are partnered with someone, especially when it's just one other partner versus when it's, like a suite, like a law firm with a suite of partnerships. It's very, very different. And it's never a 50-50.
Yeah.
Just like it's not 50-50 in an actual relationship, right?
100%. And I really like that you parallel that it is like a marriage, because you spend more time really than sometimes in your own family with that partner. And you're going through all of the things, the loss, the wins, the challenges. We had up to 25 employees in our high season. So they were like our children, that was really our family. And I think that there is a layer of identity recognition when that changes and you pivot. And it's really like, who am I without being the CEO of this corporation? Who am I without being half of this partnership? So yeah, lots of different layers to navigate through.
I love that you brought that up so much. So a lot of the work that I do is working with power couples and married women entrepreneurs that are navigating those growth pains of fast scaling, and how that's love and there's goodness and there's joy and there's the anticipation. I've been waiting for this, and it's pulling away from their intimacy and all of their other key relationships. And part of the work that I'm doing is helping them to integrate those three identities, the married, the woman, and the entrepreneur, because you hit the nail on the head. When you become an entrepreneur, it is, you thought you was confident before? You thought you was that thing before? Welcome to entrepreneurship that exposes, like, you're like, I didn't even know I had cellulite back there. Like, what is happening, right? Like, it literally takes like a spotlight to places on your body. And I don't even mean that physically, like emotionally, spiritually, financially, like all the pieces of yourself. It brings this fishbowl feeling to each part of yourself and highlights all the flaws. With
100%.
Every room you have to walk in, especially as a woman. And when you're and this is no disrespect to anyone who doesn't identify this way, but when you are a beautiful woman, it brings another level of challenge to you, because now you have to deal with the crap you thought you just got away from when you walk into these environments to, shake hands and kiss babies, meet people, build relationships, and they're trying to see who they can take to the hotel at the end of the conference night. Like, it's a whole another level of navigating that adds to all of the complexities of just normal working and figuring out who you're becoming in this work.
I love that you honor and respect that, Naketa. And I really, when you were talking about in your work, looking at those three facets, I really admire that you break out being a woman as its own pillar, because it's so very important. We have so many different layers on that holistic level, not only in our own personal life, but the cultural paradigms, our ancestral connections. So I love that you are addressing us as women specifically, and how do we navigate and bridge and bring synergy to rising. I love that.
Thank you. This is supposed to be about you, Kc. Let me do it on you. You ever have those moments where you're like, yes, don't stop talking. No. I have one of those wishes now. Thank you.
Yes.
You are doing some incredibly beautiful work, and I would love for you to talk more about Soulprint Method. Is that your highlighted method that you're moving forward with as we reach into the latter half of 2021, or have you, reclaimed parts of it and pivoted it in a different way?
That's actually the method that I use when I work with my female entrepreneurs. It really truly is bringing those two elements into the work. So, of course, we want to look at ourselves in both sides of the coin. So the feminine side, like I mentioned. And what does that look like in real life? It is about understanding about our intuition, our power and wisdom as women, the fluidity. What does it mean to be in alignment with our core values? How do we live our virtues in action so they're not just like trendy, cute sayings on our coffee cup that we post on Instagram, but it's like,
Preach.
how are we living it? How are we living it? So we have that whole aspect. How can we sell from love? How can we incorporate our work as worship, our selling as service, right? Stepping into that and giving ourselves permission. Again, I say that a lot because I feel like we're being told constantly what we should do, should look like, should act like, and I want to squash all the shoulds.
Yes.
And really be empowered and connect in that way through our femininity. And on the flip side, because in order for something to be sustainable, we have to have the balance. So how do we respect and acknowledge the masculine sides, not only of our business, but of ourself, right?
Yes.
Because we have this dynamic aspects of both masculine and feminine, no matter how we identify. So how do we respect that? What does it look like in business? It looks like understanding our KPIs, our metrics, setting goals, honoring the logistical and the logical aspects of business and putting that into a strategy that makes sense. Those two pieces together make a very strong interwoven balance that we can not only stand on and have that like grounded foundation, but it allows us to really have the confidence to spread out, right? Like just this great big magnificent impact of how do we spread this out now that we are so whole. People will feel that. They'll feel our wholeness. They see that and they're like, wait a second, I don't have that. There's a gap somewhere. How do I get that? And so I think that, you know, like they say, our vibe attracts our tribe. And I truly believe that. I truly believe that. So the Soulprint method to me is, you know, the decades that I've done in spiritual and personal development and married that with the strategies of like what it took from a white piece of paper to make a 7+ figure business and to continue to help other people make 6 and 7 figure businesses. That's what that method is all about.
I love all of it. You are definitely in my heart's desire of alignment. There's no question. The fact that you can bring in the woo that people, the world, I embrace the woo. I'm extremely woo. So the woo was a huge part of where I believe a lot of our growth comes from. And to your point, we need to have those anchors of understanding and clarity that measure, like what doesn't get measured doesn't get done, right? Like being able to your point, have those metrics, those KPIs, those milestones. I know people have challenges with goals, like that's a whole thing on Instagram right now. Like no goals, just milestones, whatever the hashtag is. But I do understand the alignment of it is because sometimes goals feel so narrowing and we get fixated, and that perfectionism that you were talking about rises up and takes over for people if they didn't hit a goal by June 1st at 3 p.m., you know, that versus the milestone that's aligned with those KPIs, those progression goals those progression markers that allow you to really see, like, are you moving in the right direction? Is this taking too much energy and effort, but not producing the adequate impact that you need it to in whatever area of your business you're doing it in? I really value that you pulled both of those in, because that's something that a lot of coaches hear a lot is like, oh, coaching, that's for people who have time for that. Right? Yeah. They think it's like an extra thing that's not crucial and necessary. And it is. Like, we are essential workers. Like, that is, you know, that is the reality. But not everyone that has ever received coaching, partially because they haven't necessarily received it in a way that aligned with their feminine and masculine, to your point, that could really help them see the gaps and close the gaps so they could get to the next level of themselves. They didn't honor it and was like, oh, I didn't learn anything from that coach. Oh, I didn't get anything. And sometimes that may be true, right? Like, you may not have a good pairing, but when you have something like the Soulprint method that really does break down the areas to help you see as the coachee, where are the gaps? Oh, I see it now. Kc has shown me what that looks like and given me a blueprint of sort to help accomplish ways to close that. It really makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And Naketa, it's so very interesting because you have to be at a certain point to want to honor the balance. Because I think depending on the stage that you're in, many times you're just focused on hitting those milestone markers, hitting the 10 or
Mhm.
20K per month. And it's almost like mindset isn't sexy enough to make the cut.
Right,
So you do
right.
have to be at a certain level, I think, to even want to put the time, energy, and effort into the balance. And then on the other aspect of that, I work with a lot of healers and creatives, and they want to stay in the femininity. They want to swim in that fluid, fun, healing, helping space. So there's a lot of resistance to,
Mhm.
what do you mean I have to like outline my 3 most important things of the day? Like, that doesn't sound like fun. What do you mean I have to focus on like what tasks are CEO worthy? And so, again, there has to be a growth mindset, a
Mhm.
level of openness to realize that the things and the tactics and the mindset that got you here are not going to be the same things that are going to get you to your next level. And you have to be willing to embrace possibly a tool, a strategy, an app, an analytics measuring tool to help you along the way. And I think that that's a really valuable point when you talk about being matched with the right coach and making sure that you're in alignment with your support system.
Mhm.
That's really so important. But even before that,